What's up, everybody? Welcome into episode 3 of the Locker Room to Life podcast, featuring myself, Andrew Romanella, and the future Mrs. Romanella, Juliana Bellar.
Hello, everyone.
Hope you're doing well. We've been on a small hiatus. We are excited to be back. We hope you're enjoying our Christmas-themed studio we have here. We put some effort into it. We're enjoying it, so whether you do or not, doesn't really matter to us. We are pumped about today's topic. Juliana, could you tell the people what our topic is today?
Most definitely. And because I did this once, I'm going to do it again. Can I get a drum roll?
Oh, all right.
I need a build up, like
Here
some
we
excitement
go.
for the people.
Such a gymnast.
Our topic today is finding a new identity after sport.
And I love that. Can you start to tell the people why it is important to find or look to find a new identity after sport?
Yes. So this is actually one of my favorite topics that I've been looking forward to doing on our Locker Room to Life podcast, because for me, especially from such a young age, I was always known as like the gymnast. That was my identity, though there was so much more to Juliana, as you know. You live with it. You live with it.
Oh, yeah.
So finding who you are after sport, after your sport ends, is so similar to finding your routine, which is a little plug to our last episode.
Romanella's on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe.
Yeah, check that out. But to be honest, for most of your life, you're programmed into your identity, I would say. So you go to school, you're usually involved in a sport that maybe you were interested in, but your parents enrolled you in. So that kind of forced you to be a part of your own identity. But it's so important to establish yourself without sport, because you can get so caught up in that being part of your life. And outside of that, you need to know who you are, whether that's different hobbies, passions, who you are as a person, your personality, because it leads you so much further into life. So sometimes that means taking a step back from your sport, but also finding other activities. So I'm hoping you can share with people some of the activities that you have found after sport that have satisfied that competitive edge.
I am a huge activities person to begin with. I think that I'm somebody that when not doing my job, I want to spend free time doing activities. So for me, when
It's one of the reasons why I'm married. Yeah, just saying.
We do a lot of things. One of the things that was tough for me when baseball ended after college was, what am I going to sink my teeth into sport-wise, activity-wise, the word we're using today, that I could really get behind and have fun doing, that gave me the same feeling of competitive nature, that gave me the same feeling of maybe community, that gave me the same feeling of all these different things that I had in the baseball program. So for me, it's twofold. One of them being golf. I love golf from the technical standpoint. I love golf from the feeling of being great. I also love golf from the feeling of not being great. I know that sounds crazy, but because I spend so much time baseball coaching, and the players on my roster are the difference between mistakes and losses and wins more so than me, golf puts it back in my hands, and I appreciate that. And baseball was individualistic in terms of hitting or the play most times, so I miss that individual nature. But recently I've gotten into roller hockey, and for me, that's brought me the community piece of it, the being in the locker room with the guys and playing a sport that I haven't played since I was 18. And man, that has been fun too. So for me, it is almost my identity has morphed 19 different ways. And I think that's because I was like, ooh, let's try something that wasn't my sport. And it fulfilled different pockets of need for me personally and emotionally.
I just want to touch on one thing before we talk about competitive edge, because you mentioned that piece, and that's something that never goes away once you're an athlete and you move from locker room to life.
Even when we play each other in ping pong, the competitive nature's through the roof.
I know. And I'm dying to beat him in 3 rounds of ping pong.
one aside, I'm not allowed to let Juliana win in this relationship.
That was a non-negotiable. When I met you, I was like, you can play me in multiple activities, multiple sports, but do not let me win. Like, that will make me more mad. I want to win fair and square. And you have been so honest and true to that. And that makes me so happy.
And that's the competitive nature. I want to win no matter the activity that I am playing.
Well, I appreciate that. And one thing I want to touch on before moving to the competitive piece of it, because once you're an athlete, that never dies.
Correct.
Is you mentioned that obviously baseball was your sport. That's what you played in college. That's what you coach to this day. That's your career. But you found other ways, whether that's golf or hockey, even bowling. We were in a bowling league last year, and that was super fun.
So good.
You're so good at it.
Thank you.
I'm trying to be good at it.
Way better than she gives herself credit for.
For a while, I was like, I don't do ball sports, but you know what? Now that I've met you, I've been doing ball sports, and I've been doing them well. Pretty decent, I would say. Toot toot my own horn.
Absolutely.
But can you talk a little bit about like what that feels for you, not only physically, but even just mentally and emotionally, taking yourself out of the baseball lens and being like, I'm on the golf course now. How does that feel?
Weird. So weird. I think part of it feels weird because my sport translation, like different than maybe other people, like I'm hitting a ball in my sport. So when you go to golf and you don't hit a ball that's not moving, it's very frustrating from the jump. And you're like, this makes no sense. Why am I even doing this? And then what was at 6 years old, 7 years old, 8-year-old, that like drive to be really good at it. And because I think golf, at least for the general adult population, is like their main sport kind of in a way, everyone says, oh, they play golf, or it's good for business, or everyone should learn how to play golf.
True.
So you put that whole factor into it and you're like, oh, wait, I can kind of garner that competitive edge in this sport as well, because I can go out with my dad or my brother or my friends and still compete, still possibly be the best athlete on the course, which satisfies that for me big time. I hope I'm that like 95% of the time I play golf. And then the third part of it is, I know it's weird. Like the community in golf's not necessarily like the community that you have at Pilates, or I might have at roller hockey, like the tightness nature of it. But you've seen it. It's like when you kind of are in a golf community, or you present yourself like you belong in that community, it's like a fun community to be a part of. So I'd say those were the three buckets for me that kind of hit. It was like the frustration at first, then led to the drive, and then made me realize other people are doing that at my age brackets, probably the best way to put it without making myself sound too ridiculous for how much I care about this sport when I'm not making any money to do it. And then that third piece, which was I really enjoyed talking to other people about it, conversing with them about it, going to the course for other people, as you know, and getting a rando in your group. I don't like it that much either, but I'm also a personable guy. So that kind of became fun.
Are you?
Yeah.
You're personable? No way.
Hey, listen, breaking news here on the Locker Room to Life podcast.
This is why I'm marrying him
This
times
is why,
2 every time I reference in the show.
This is why you subscribe on the YouTube channel to the Romanella. So that would be my answer to your question about golf.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very purposeful and educational for the people.
Yes.
It's really important. You know, you graduate from college or doing your sport or being a pro, and you have all this energy that you want to compete in. And it's awesome to hear that you found that. And I hope other people can find that too. Outside
of just finding an identity outside of your sport once you graduate, that satisfying that competitive edge is super important. And I do it through the opportunity of playing sport again. However, my partner here and my lovely fiance does it in a different manner, which also provides both a competitive edge, which is kind of like one-on-one, but a community aspect of it too. If you want to talk about what Pilates does for you in terms of that edge, that community, and anything else we've talked about in terms of the importance of the identity.
Yes, definitely. So Pilates has been something that I've found and fallen in love with. And it's funny because a lot of the Pilates that's done right now is done at like hot yoga studios or Pilates Reformer. Well, I love hot mat Pilates and also Pilates Fusion, which is more strength training cardio.
It is electric, by the way. If you've never tried it, I'm not just saying that to pump her tires. I mean that honestly.
Follow at Juliana Moves.
Yeah. At Juliana Moves on Instagram, and you'll see.
But I think for me, the competitive nature of that is definitely different. I'm not facing another team, scoring a goal. And obviously, I come from an individual sport background. But for Pilates, I feel like I'm competing with myself. And I love that because every day I'm going on my mat. I've found a lot of like mindfulness and peace and just like focusing on myself and staying in the moment and breathing. And honestly, sometimes it's just like the place that I can turn it off. So I'm only competing with myself. Like I'm only trying to get myself better physically, mentally, and emotionally. And obviously, there's other people in the room. Now that I'm an instructor, there's always going to be a competitive piece to, how was her class? How was her playlist? Things like that. But I'm trying so hard in this era of my life. I know you love the word era. To just focus on competing with myself. And I found so much fun in that and enjoyment in that. And aside from the competitive part of it, the community is insane. At first, when I started going to this one studio, which has become part of my like home and daily routine, I was like, head down, don't talk to a lot of people. Obviously, say hi to the instructor. Thank you. Because I know that goes a long way. They're putting their time and effort into sequencing the class, teaching the class. On the instructor side, I know how much effort that takes now. So I've always been appreciative of them. But for a while, I was going to these workouts and I was like, don't really want to talk to anyone. It's 5:45 in the morning. I have to talk to people all day long in my day job. And then obviously I'm working at the dance studio, my post job too. But I've made so many friends in just showing up and them saying hello and me saying hello, learning their names, knowing their life stories, whether it's how many kids they have, what college they're going to, what grad school they're enrolled in. And that's been so much fun because I think something that's not talked about a lot when you graduate college, especially if you're in college athletics, if you go away for school, all of your friends are either from a distance or from that area. I went to school in New Hampshire. You went to boarding school in Connecticut.
Yep.
And then obviously in New York.
Yep.
You have those friends built in immediately. The second you get on campus, your roommate is an athlete, someone who's from another state or from that state. So when you leave, it's kind of an identity crisis alone, just making friends.
Yeah.
And finding that. And obviously, I've moved back home after moving to Ohio. You've moved into so many different areas and places of your life that this show would take another hour to even talk about.
Yep.
But building a community is so hard. And especially after college when you were given one your whole life. So trying to do that through an activity or at your job is so important in your identity. So I would say another thing to do when you graduate college, not only is putting yourself in a new community, is finding ways to challenge yourself, because that alone is challenging yourself to get out of your comfort zone, talk to people, be social, be energetic, and just find your new tribe, I would say.
If you subscribe to the Romanellas on YouTube, one of our first few episodes of Locker Room to Life podcast, you can also find the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search Locker Room to Life podcast. We talked about the importance of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'd say before we wrap up the show here, that's the last place I'd like to go, because your identity truly, as you mentioned in the open, is wrapped up in your sport and who you are. And to find other ways to figure out who you are as just a human being, not identified by your sport, you have to get uncomfortable. You have to put yourself in positions where this is outside of my comfort zone. I don't know if I'm prepared for this. Well, you'll find out if you're prepared for it or not by putting yourself in that uncomfortable situation. So for me, that was a fun part of it, because I got to be honest, I showed up to work the next day and I don't coach hockey. I don't do anything involved with hockey. It's the exact opposite sport, baseball.
Not anymore,
well,
but you did at one point.
Right.
Yes.
Correct. I appreciate that. But my confidence level at my job was through the roof, because it just felt good to walk into a locker room of guys I didn't know outside of your cousin who invited me on the team, and then be able to all of a sudden, bang, feel like, oh, wow, I got 7 to 10 best friends here almost. And so that
now you're in a group chat.
Yeah. And it's like, and we pump each other up. We josh on each other a little bit too, just like the locker room.
You have the game winning stick this week.
Yeah, it felt pretty good.
I'm just gassing you
I should have
up.
brought it on the show. Come on.
I hope if anything, people feel through this show how much we love each other.
Yes.
It's honestly so genuine.
Yeah. And that's kind of why we're doing the show. And I got to be honest with the people, this stuff right now, at least, is prominent for me individually in my life, and it is a difference maker. And it does not have to be, as Juliana has shown the people, a sport-based activity either. Just go find something.
A book club,
Yeah.
a running club.
Yep, absolutely.
A girls' night, like a girl group. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Anything.
There's so many opportunities, especially with the internet.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everybody listening to episode 3 of the Locker Room to Life podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the Romanellas on YouTube. Jules, any last thoughts for the people before we get out of here?
I think getting comfortable being uncomfortable is such a highlight. And I'm glad we ended on that point, because you have to put yourself out there. If you don't, you'll never get involved in a new group, in a new activity, in things post-sport, post-school. So I'm really glad we touched on that.
I am glad we get to do this together.
Me too.
The few episodes we have planned for you: personal health, mental wellness, why being a college athlete is important. If you are trying to become a college athlete, how about the locker room before college life? We can talk to you about the recruiting process, pros and cons. We have so many prepared for the people, and we don't have a schedule, by the way. We're just going to put these out when we have time.
We're also really just going off of life experience here. Like, we're not professionals, but in the same sense, like, you and I can both say we lived as a student athlete, we lived as a coach in multiple areas. So I think especially touching on things like the recruiting process in college, that'll help a lot.
Have a happy holidays if you're listening around the holiday time. If you catch this episode months away from the holidays, well, then we hope you are having a nice thought about the holidays. Andrew Romanella, Juliana Bellar, the Locker Room to Life podcast. Subscribe to the Romanellas on YouTube. We're out of here. Bye, everybody.
Peace. You know I had to do that.